Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming here. It's great to be here. My name is Rachel Konrad. I'm the Chief Brand Officer at a venture foundry called The Production Board based in San Francisco. And I am here with three wonderful colleagues who we will give a chance to introduce themselves. First, let's start with Bharat Vasan.
Thanks, Rachel. Let's see, I've been coming to CES. This is my 12th to 13th year. And it's so cool to be on this panel because I've started a bunch of companies in health and food and a bunch of companies in wearables as well. So this combines two of those things. And I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. Yes, Noosheen Hashemi, Silicon Valley veteran, spent 10 years at Oracle, then a bunch of dot-coms, raised a couple of kids, started a couple of foundations, back to the dark side, and then started January in 2016 with the promise of AI in health, which was quite something at the time. And really, really excited about the power of AI to do good in society. And we're using it for metabolic health.
Hey, thank you. My name is Ari Tulla. I'm the token Finn in every panel in the US, which is always fun. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Elo Health. We do food that we can turn into medicine. And I became a fervent believer in this idea about a decade ago. So my story goes back 20 years. My wife had a health issue, a thyroid tumor, and we spent about a decade of trying to find a way to overcome the problem with that. She was healed, but we got the verdict we can never have a family. And we found out that food was actually helping her to lower inflammation, heal her body, and in the end, we have two babies that came out of that. So every day I see my kids, I remember that food actually can be medicine.
Well, thank you guys. Okay, so this panel is all about the personalized future of food. Personalization, as everybody at CES knows, is a big topic. We can buy airplane tickets that are personalized to our, food preferences and where we want to sit. We have email that can be personalized to, to tell us when to do things, what's priority email, and even how to respond. We even can personalize our phones so that they, shut up during a panel like this, so things aren't beeping, right? But I want each of you guys to tell us a little bit about the personalization of food and nutrition, because it's something we don't hear much about. Ari, why don't you start?
Yeah, sure, thank you. So what we do at Elo, we try to personalize food and nutrition, and we call it smart nutrition. So for us, it really has been this thinking that, like you said, a lot of the devices that we have in our wrist or our car, a Tesla or our phone, they are smart. So what is making them smart today? And we thought about that for quite a while, and we came up with three different distinctive features. The smart things are personalized to you, they are also precise, and they are also proactively getting better over time. So that is what we think that nutrition should be and could be. And we have a new product we just got into the market, and this is basically a 3D printed gummy vitamin. So you get all your vitamins in a one gummy that we print for you based on a health assessment or blood work. So if you're low on vitamin D, you will get the gummy vitamin with vitamin D. And then we can test you again to show you the outcomes. And I have a quick video so to give you an idea of what these products could look like. Let's roll the film. Cool, thank you. And just to kind of recap my point, what is making this type of new product possible? It is three things. We have now ability to track data from our body, digital biomarkers and biomarkers. We also have ability to deliver nutrition to people's homes. 80% of Americans have tried food delivery, DoorDash, Instacart, and so forth. And lastly, AI is actually becoming real. It wasn't real 2 years ago, but now it is. So those three things are making these things possible.
Yeah, I can go next. So January AI is a generative AI that predicts your next blood sugar level. We've been in research and development for over 6 years, and we have been clinically validated and published most recently in NPJ Digital Medicine, which is an imprint of Nature, and recognized for our glucose predictions. And the way the predictions work is that we take data from wearables that Ari just mentioned. For example, from continuous glucose monitors, from smartwatches, and also user-reported data, including food logs. And after a period of training, we're able to predict a person's response to any of the foods in our 32 million large food atlas. We do this for healthy people, people with prediabetes, people with type 2 diabetes that are not insulin intense. And what we have just brought to market, please roll the January AI video, is a new app that is free. It's a freemium product, and it uses 3 kinds of generative AI to tell you your blood sugar response. So it uses our own generative AI for glucose, and then it uses a vision generative AI to pick what's in a food, and then it uses a language model to give it a title, etc. So basically, you scan a food, as simple as scanning the food. You can also scan a barcode. You can also do a search. And we can tell you all the macros of a food, its total calories. We can tell you how much fiber, protein, and fat and carb it has. And we can also show you your blood sugar. So if you are keto and you want to maintain, no carbs, or if you are an athlete and want to have a certain amount of protein, or you're an older person, you want to maintain a certain kind of protein, it gives you all that idea. So it could be used for weight loss, or it could be used for managing, keeping your blood sugar in optimal state. So 1 out of 3 people in America has prediabetes, and 90% of them don't know it. And 1 out of 9 people has diabetes, and 20% of those people don't know it. So blood sugar is something we should all be managing, but we just don't know that we should. So January is passionate about getting the population, the entire US population, to be blood sugar aware, because half of the population has diabetes or prediabetes. So we want to make sure everyone is aware of blood sugar and is something they're actively working on.
I'm a big fan of what both of you guys are doing, because it's really speeding up something that started 10, 15 years ago with sensors. When we first started coming to CES, you had wearables, and they generated data. They would turn them into steps and heart rate and vasculature and stress and other stuff. And it was very, very hard when you had all that data to figure out what you would do with it. It was very hard to tie causes to effects. And I think one of the new things that's happening is there's so much data on each person at this point in time that the software and the food experience is getting more and more personalized. So people can start to tie stuff in real time, as opposed to, hey, here's a personalized meal kit that arrives each week. You're probably going to see something that every single day you feel low energy. This is what you need food-wise and nutrition-wise. Is it because of sleep? Is it because of your diet? Is it because of exercise? But you start to get some of that coaching level stuff that used to be, I would say, high level and kind of like formulaic. It didn't really differentiate between, someone who's 20 years old and 50 years old. It was kind of standard formulaic advice. But personalized at that individual level, both with the nutrition level, at the sleep level, and the exercise level. That's pretty exciting.
Great. Okay. I have a question for the audience here. How many people in the audience made a New Year's resolution around health and wellness somehow? Yeah. Okay. So quite a few. So a couple of years ago, this is true confessions here on stage. A couple of years ago, I actually joined Noom, the big weight loss application. And lots of good stuff. I'm not here to bash it, but it was frustrating to me because I, as a 50-something like perimenopausal woman who eats largely plant-based, super healthy diet, was treated by the algorithm almost exactly the same way as like an obese 22-year-old man who all he has to do is stop going to McDonald's and he'll totally lose the weight, right? It was super frustrating for me. So the question that I have for each of you guys is, when will, and maybe it's AI, like how will AI actually help us to get to a truly personalized health and wellness and food system, not this one-size-fits-all thing, which is just not working?
Yeah, I mean, I believe the future is now. And I think we are the people we've been waiting for, because we are very easily able to pick up data from people, not just from wearables. It's also very easy. Like, for example, the food scan I just showed you, people are used to taking pictures of their food for Instagram anyway. So all you have to do is take a picture, and then we'll tell you how many calories you're consuming every day. We'll tell you what your basic metabolic rate is from user-reported data that you give us, your BMI, we'll figure out your BMI from your height, weight, and all of that. So it's trivial. It's trivial. And people like us will soon have blood test analysis. We will add genetics analysis. So the holy grail is we collect all the data about you in a multi-omic fashion, all the data that's available from wearables, from blood tests, from your genetics, from everything. And we're able to tell you on a day-to-day basis what to eat. And we are also able to tell you, hey, looks like better for you to fast in the morning than the evening, to stop eating earlier instead. Perhaps you want to eat later in the day. You seem to be doing better this way. Or you need to maintain a 3-hour gap between your last meal and sleep. We can tell you that. I mean, we are able to do a tremendous amount of personalization now with AI, which is why that product that I just showed you works. So the paper that we just published is the first paper that shows weight loss with a continuous glucose monitor, but also the first paper that shows AI to be used to change behavior, because we specifically distinguish between different people. Like, if he eats a pizza, he needs to walk 23 minutes. Maybe I need to walk 18 and he needs to walk 12. And our product does that. And we do that now.
I need to walk like 45.
It depends on your metabolic wellness. If you're really metabolically fit, you can eat anything because your blood sugar will go up. No problem. You have enough insulin that meets that blood sugar perfectly. It's balanced, no worries. But if you're metabolically unhealthy, you can, your blood sugar goes higher than it would for a healthy person, but then you may or may not have enough insulin, or may not produce it fast enough. So maybe not the amount or the speed of production to actually meet that glucose. And you're going to have a lot of different health issues, which over time can cause multitude of comorbidities, not just metabolic disease.
I think what's cool about it is also it's like having a personal coach in your pocket, right? And it's something that most people can't afford. And even if you can, it's a very, very structured thing. They're going to be there at the specific time. You got to do a Zoom call with them, or it's Noom, it's an app. It's not very interactive. So this notion that something can proactively provide you with feedback, and you can tie kind of the causes to the effects in your life, is, I think, pretty powerful. I also think, and this is just me maybe, I love the fact that something can be non-judgmental when looking at my data, because it's, I'm married. And so when I have conversations with my wife, I can't imagine sharing all this data with her so she could come up with new theories of what I should be doing, how much I should exercise. But I think one cool thing I've seen with most language models is they're infinitely patient. So you fall off the rails one day for an hour, a month, whatever else is going on in your life, it's able to relate to you in the way you like to be related to. And I think that is a powerful new UX development that probably hasn't existed before. It's not just data, but it's presenting data in a way that gets through to you, kind of like a coach would.
And also gets to know you over a long period of time. Yeah. And if you drop in something like, no, I don't eat eggplants, it will just remember that. So you don't have to keep using it.
I think the question is about the personalization. So I think the good news is that we don't need to be perfect. If you think about food, and maybe controversial to say, because I'm building the most personalized, specific, precise supplement company in the world. But if you think about food, most people who are sick, they eat maybe like 40% diet. And if you go to 60, 70% diet right for you, you're going to be healthy. So we don't need to be perfect at all. It's not about like you need to get every day right. You need to get every meal right. That's a good thing. And I fully agree that it will be about the user experience. You have to make it a game. It has to be easy. There has to be automatic ambient data tracking. And there has to be systems like Noosheen said, which is like people take a lot of photos of food on Instagram. That was kind of how the whole thing started. So people know how to do that. And if you just snap a photo and you get instantly feedback, that's pretty cool. And those are going to change behavior. If it's too difficult, meal logging, working, it feels work. Nobody will do that. And we know that.
Okay, so there's a ton of products out there that have been out there for a while. Apple, the Oura Ring, others. They track everything from our menstrual cycles and fertility to step count to exactly what we eat to maybe pretty soon whether we like eggplant or not. How worried should we be about privacy on this? I mean, are we going to be entering a period here where insurance, tracks it, and then your insurance gets jacked up because it knows that, you're logging in margaritas every couple nights?
I'm not as worried about that. I was worried about that when I first started in this industry. I was terrified about that. But first of all, Apple is one company that has made a brand around privacy. And one thing that is truly astonishing to believe is all the information that Apple collects from you, it does not mix any of that information. Like, it does not know all the information it collects in the Apple Health Kit. It does not use it for research. It's pretty unbelievable. So whatever you see in Apple product, for example, you go on an elliptical and it says, are you on an elliptical? Your watch said they did that as a result of a clinical trial. They actually hired people into a clinical trial, put them on a treadmill, put devices on them, got them to consent to their data being shared and be put in development. And that's how they did it. They do not use any of your data that is in your account. It's really stunning. So I'm hoping more will follow Apple. So I'm not worried about that. But I do think that a lot of insurance companies will use your data for incentives. There are multiple programs right now from Aetna, from actually the top insurers in the country, where they're going to want you to walk like they're doing it with movement right now. I'm hoping they'll do it with blood sugar. I'm hoping they'll do it with food that you consume, and you get credits back. You get credits back in the way of Amazon cards, Starbucks cards, things like that. So that's a way to distinguish people, because if you're willing to walk 45 minutes after your meal and somebody else isn't, why don't you get rewards for that and somebody else may not? So I think that we can absolutely do that now. We've been doing it for about 15 years with Fitbits and Apple Watches, started with Fitbits, and now we should be able to do it with Oura Rings. We should be able to do it with your food scans. And I am very, very, very excited in 2024. I hope we get a continuous blood pressure monitor, Actia, that will come to the US and get FDA approval. That's going to be super exciting. In January, we'll be able to predict your blood pressure next.
Wow, that is fascinating. So it's almost like I've noticed this. Not to do a plug for my old employer Tesla, but Tesla has a really interesting insurance program where it's not based on necessarily your age or even tickets that you've gotten, but on the actual amount that you drive and the speed and everything else. And we switched over to it. It has by far the lowest rates. So, and man, it's almost like a governor, because you think, oh, maybe they're going to jack up the rates. So that's great to know. Okay, so tell us a little bit more, now that we've got all these devices logging everything from our fertility cycles to our step count and everything else. What is the next set of products and services? And will it feel a little bit less clunky, I would say, than it does now? No offense to anything that anyone's doing, but is it going to be truly integrated?
I think we are in this world where we are a little bit overloaded. There are maybe a bit too many. Like, I have an Apple Watch and I have a Whoop and an Oura Ring and a glucose monitor, which is a bit too much, I think. I don't think normal people would do that. But I'm a bit of a geek, and I test things, of course, for my company. But one thing that I can tell, and I was thinking about this question a bit, that I was lucky enough to be an early investor in the Oura Ring, and they are from my hometown in Finland, and got to know the guys even before they started. And I followed very closely what they did. And I think they did 3 things right that were really cool. So first, they made a product ambient. So it's the ring that, it doesn't have a light, it doesn't have a haptic, it's just a ring sitting there, and it looks nice. If I don't want to watch the data on the app, I don't need to do that. It won't intervene in my life. But if I want to go look at it, I get the data on the app easily. The second, what they did, they made it one use case. They spent first 5 years only on sleep. How many devices are trying to do activity and sleep and recovery and whatnot? It's too complicated. And they also made it very convenient. And I talked to a lot of people, and I think the consensus is that they want the market, they want the ring form, and they will be a big company. They will be, I think, $20 billion company, I believe, because they basically made it convenient. And it meant that the battery life is 7 days. You can put it in a charger once a week for 10 minutes, and that's it. So those were the 3 things that I think they believe, and I believe, that made the company. So if you think about other wearable devices, like how can you follow that? How can you make them ambient and convenient, and also make them very, very good at one thing and giving value? Because everybody who buys Oura Ring, they actually tell me that it's great. they get real value, and they might, find out when they're getting sick. They find not do the hard training when they are getting sick or they are overtired. They might learn a new pattern, how to fight jet lag, for example. So those are a couple ideas. And I think the future thing really is going to be more ambient. Like, I mean, if you go to the West Hall, you can see the Withings urine tracker that you put in a toilet bowl. Super cool. You put it there for 1 month and you pee and it will tell you something. Automatic. You don't need to look at the data, but it can alert you. And of course, the Apple, if they come up with the blood sensor or blood pressure sensor here, and also the blood glucose in your wrist, that will be a game changer, because then all these things we think about will be true.
But you don't need it, because with AI, January AI is giving you your blood sugar response without you wearing sensors. So AI is going to actually fast track and skip over and leapfrog the normal level of development. And that's the excitement for AI for good, because you really don't need to do it the old-fashioned way. There's really a hugely new way. What I'd like to see happen, though, is I want to see everything way cheaper. I'd love to see sensors on everyone that's $20 that everybody can afford, as opposed to the fancy schmancy stuff that only a few can afford. That's the dream. We can solve for human longevity, for human health span, for human health, if we can track more people seamlessly. And we're not doing it. We're only doing it for a few people, and we should be doing it more seamlessly.
Ari touched on personalized computing. I think one of the things, just to tack onto that, the next generation of sensors, outside of biometric data, I think visual data is really powerful. And so I have some hope that the AI pen and other cameras, Meta's Ray-Ban glasses, those start to give you kind of a living memory of what happened throughout the day, both not just kind of what you ate, but kind of what kind of pressures you had at work or at home or someplace else. So you can start to correlate those things with how you feel every single day, or your weight, or other things like that. It's going to be important going forward. Diet, I think, is such a big part of well-being, and just generally like the cause of so many problems in the healthcare system, that I'm excited for sensors like that. I'm also excited for what they mean when tens of millions of people are getting on these GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic and Zepbound and Mounjaro, because that ties directly back to what they eat as well. So I think this diet to how you feel relationship can be a whole lot better with better coaching and better sensors.
Okay, so since you brought that up, I want to discuss this. The most personal thing that any of us possess, other than maybe our, thoughts and prayers, right, is our microbiome, our gut microbiome. And there's a lot of studies that even in identical twins who share the exact same DNA, their microbiomes are vastly different based on what they ate 3 hours ago, whether they were a vegan in their 20s, based on all different kinds of things. And we're learning more and more that your gut microbiome is truly the most personalized thing you have. When are we going to be able to use AI and some of the tools that we've talked about to really get a good understanding of that, and frankly, how to improve it?
Yeah, so I can jump in, because we've been working on gut microbiome for also 6 years. We have a supplement that's a prebiotic, probiotic polyphenol to modulate your gut specifically for immune and metabolic health. So we think about the microbiome all the time. So basically what you need is, again, we need a lot of data collection. So there's a lot of data pools, a lot of poop samples out there, but we do need to collect poop samples and then essentially study these in a fast rate. So the science, 100%, Rachel, utterly exists today, and we don't need to wait. This is not like it doesn't need to be years from now. This is a matter of scale. We have all the technology today to manage cardiometabolic health, bunch of diseases, but we don't have the willpower. We don't have the incentives. Things are too costly. And generally things are too costly, and generally our system is based on disease and end of life as opposed to prevention, because the technology around our understanding of microbiome has gone up tremendously in the last decade. And we do know what modulates microbiome. We ran a wet lab in San Carlos for 5 years. And so we understand so much, but we need to have the right policies, government policies that says prevention will be important in America. What are the things we need to modulate? Oh, people need to eat more fiber. in their daily diet to reduce inflammation en masse in the population. So we need policies. We need to screen people for prediabetes. We don't do that today. 90% of the people that have prediabetes, 96 million people, don't know they have prediabetes. They're just walking towards diabetes every day. And these are just silly. They're really, truly ridiculous. So in terms of what we understand so much. I was just telling Elo and my friend Ari here that there's a scientist at Stanford who knows can predict the health of the child from the health of the mother before the child is conceived. We have data. We have AI. We have data. We understand multiomics. We can analyze it. And my co-founders work at Stanford, Mike Snyder, 109 people they've tracked for 9 years, completely multiomically, microbiome, genetics, all the wearables, blood tests, everything else, metabolomics, proteomics. And they have essentially diagnosed 49 conditions in people without any of them having a single symptom. So we have prevention. We have it today. It's just expensive. It's not part of standard of care. It's what happens in science takes 10 to 15 years to happen in standard of care if maybe the government wants it. So, but we should really think also at China and what China is doing around health and what they're doing, how they're solving for health. Their AI is extremely powerful. They're recording people. 1.4 billion people are getting video recorded on a daily basis. They're not wearing glasses, but someone's recording. We can see all their behavior. They've been tested up the wazoo after COVID.
They're forced to submit their poop every week.
No, not the poop, but seriously.
Your step count could effectively be monitored, and yes, that's the secret. Let's turn America into a surveillance state. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Ari.
I think just one point on that. I think it's a UI problem in many ways. That I'm one of the only people who have submitted my blood 10 times. I don't think there are many people like that, and it's just too complicated. It's very silly, literally. And then the other point is that there's these problems we need to solve now are quite big. Like we need to find a better way to collect our blood. I think we can collect DNA. The tick swab is easy. COVID test is easy. How do we make the blood testing, microbiome testing to be as easy? I don't think those are easy. Those are not the startup problems. They're like, you need to invest $10 to $20 billion to fix it. And you have to get all the FDA approvals and so forth. So the blood testing is a big deal. If we could test everybody every year, that would be a big deal.
We have the technology. Microsampling can give you 20 analytes. Right now it exists. It's a company called Elo. You can go look at it. Again, came out of Stanford. And also for poop, there are wipes. So Thorne has wipes. You can just wipe your butt, tushy, and send it in and get the microbiome results back. So again, the technology exists. Do we have the willpower?
We didn't talk about food, but I think tying what you eat back to your gut microbiome. So there's companies like Supergut in the prebiotics, resistant starch space. But there are other companies, I think, where when you get the data from things around your gut microbiome, you can start to either personalize it or at least have a general sense for which aisles and which shopping aisles you should spend more time in at Whole Foods. And I think having that simple feedback around rituals in your life that you already have is something that's hard to do right now. Because it's very hard to take in all this data and then figure out what you should do about it.
Well, I mean, I have to tell you guys, I feel really frustrated as someone who has always wanted to lose that elusive last 10 pounds, right? Like literally all of my life. And I consume a huge amount of literature. I know all about ghrelin and leptin and how they control satiety along with GLP-1. But how do I know what my body needs right now? And when will that miraculous moment happen?
I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but we know today if you don't sleep enough, like my question would be, how much are you sleeping? Because you're not going to produce ghrelin and leptin unless you get enough sleep. So you get into this vicious cycle. You're not sleeping enough. So you're not producing enough of these control hormones. And the next day you want to eat carbs to, make up for your lethargic situation. And then you don't have the control hormones to stop you. And then you're in this vicious cycle. We know that now. So if I were your AI coach, I would just say, hey, Rachel, I need you to sleep a little bit more. Can you get 8 hours of sleep?
Yeah, easier said than done, Noosheen. Okay. All right, let's talk longevity. Okay, so I know that the last couple of years, we have, for the first time in generations, seen a dip in longevity, expected longevity, largely due to COVID. However, if you take the long-term trends over the last 100 or even 200 years, it's very clear that many of you in this audience, particularly the Gen Zs and the millennials, many of you will live to 90 or 100, and we're at a real inflection point where the lifespan, especially in the industrialized West and East, is going up, up, up. How specifically does personalized nutrition and food play into those later years in our lives?
I think we can food becoming medicine and us being able to give people like the 60-70 percentile diet. I think we're gonna cut almost all of the diet-related chronic conditions, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, away, and we will likely gain about 10 years of health span, not life expectancy, health span. So you can go all the way to 80, 90, and you feel good. I think, and also I think you know that many people say that Alzheimer's is the type 3 diabetes. So I think also many of the mental diseases are going to be eradicated. So we can live longer and be smarter, be better off. But when we think about then extending beyond, I don't think we know much. I mean, of course, some of us take NADs and we do different things. We go cold plunge and hot, saunas and so forth, and they do help. But I don't think we know how to go beyond the 100. Some people claim they know, but I don't think we really do. And I think for me, one of the things that will be making a big difference, we talk about often like, again, you don't have to be perfect. But one thing that we are in CES. I mean, this is the place where innovation happens and we learn about new things. And I think robotics is gonna be a big deal. The Tesla bot, it can now break an egg, it can now pick a rice, it can cook food. Think about it. It's gonna be $20,000, maybe $10,000 in a few years from now. Who would not have, if you have the money, to have that, that robot humanoid at your home cooking for you? And cooking, great quality food right for you, customized to you. That might be the easier way to do it. And by the way, while it's not cooking, it can clean your house. It can also go to the garden and farm food for the family there. So that to me is a really interesting thing that might actually have a bigger impact in longevity and food personalization than anything else.
But in the very short term, if you, for example, if you work with your AI health coach, they can look at your blood tests and everything else, be like, hey, you have this thing in your blood, in your, I'm reading it in your panels, your cholesterol is high, you need to be eating this kind of food. These are superfoods for you. We can do that now. And the AI can tell you, you can say, I have this, this, and this in my fridge. What should I cook? It can give you the recipes to cook it. So we have a lot today. I mean, the future is now.
I was just going to say, if you're looking at longevity, then the largest killers, at least in most industrialized countries, are obesity, diabetes, prediabetes, and all the comorbidities that go along with those conditions. And so I think, this is just my personal view, over the next 5 or 10 years, I think this class of GLP-1 drugs is going to do more to change the food system, because people will just be eating less, and whatever they do eat has to be more functional food. I think that change at the consumer level is going to drive so many other changes back up into the system, as opposed to the top-down things that we've tried for many years. Labels on the back, warnings, other stuff that, I think most people are just like, look, I'm not going to read all that stuff.
And also, we have helped. Did a pilot with Nestle using digital twins to look at the glycemic response of their foods. So we've looked at foods they have in the market. We've looked at foods they have under development. We've also looked at competitive foods to Nestle foods. So we have, using digital twins, we can feed these foods to a cohort of people with diabetes, people with prediabetes, and healthy people, and literally understand just how much their blood sugar goes up. And I think this is what companies like Nestle have not had. So maybe they would have to put somebody in a lab, stick a glucose monitor on them, have them eat on a fasting stomach. But we can produce fasting stomach digital twins to give them that, and we've done that. And we think that this could have far-reaching impact in the food industry. People can now understand what the impact of their foods are, because obesity and insulin resistance is going up in every country in the world, and our foods are unhealthy for us, and we need to do something about that. So indeed, what my friend said here, Bharat, he said people would be eating less foods. Absolutely true, because of GLP-1s. And 15% of the US population is already on GLP-1s, and people don't want to snack. It's
That's
cutting
incredible.
addictions. Yeah, it's
Say
remarkable.
that again. I mean, that is incredible.
15% of US population is on GLP-1s already.
It's one of the top prescriptions already written right now.
And it is so significant that, as you know, Walmart gave guidance to the market saying that they expected demand for their snack foods to go down dramatically because of GLP-1s. That's how big it is. So it is really a big factor. But we think that the foods, as Bharat said, people are going to have to produce healthier foods, and food companies need to open up their eyes and see that their foods don't have enough fiber, they're nutritiously deficient, they're cheap and delicious, but they're killing us.
Anyone here who can do this, we need to get the January AI's algorithm into Instacart and the Walmart online shopping, and then that's going to be a game changer.
We do.
That's it. That's
We
the
do.
kind of
And
less clunky
to give
application.
rewards, and to give insurance companies to give rewards then based on that.
Well, okay, I don't want to go over, so I do want to get into our fire round here. So each of you, please tell us in just a minute or so, what are your top trends that you predict for 2024? And also, if you want, give us all a piece of unsolicited advice around our diet and nutrition.
I'm not starting with unsolicited. You go first.
Oh, okay, so I think this is a year of, we have said already many times, it is a year of AI, and it's not just the LLM, it is going to be the year when the applications come live that we're going to be blown away. And also robotics is starting to pick up. I mean, it's going to be unbelievable. Next 5 years, it's going to be the most exciting time in our lives. It's also the year of the GLP-1s. 15% already on the drugs. We're going to have 50% of the people in 2 years from now taking these drugs. It will bankrupt the country, but we were going to be looking better, so maybe it's worth it. And what to do about the food? I mean, one thing that I tell everybody, breakfast is the most important meal today. You can skip it if you want, most people don't, but don't eat high carb breakfast. Eat high protein breakfast, it could be a protein shake, it could be, let's say, an omelette, and you're going to eat 15% less calories throughout the day. That is a big deal. You're not going to gain weight. You're going to lose weight if you do it properly. And that's a simple hack that everybody should do. And salad for lunch.
That's great news you can use there. Thank you.
So
Noosheen.
this is definitely the year for AI. We started innovating at the intersection of science, medicine, and AI 6 years ago. The exciting happens when these different things converge. So this is the year of convergence. The app that I just showed you has generative AI that predicts glucose. It has generative AI for vision that figures out what a picture looks like. It had a language model in it that gave a name to a food that it looks at. It figures out what the title of the thing is. And now we have convergence of these 3 generative AIs that gave you the app that I just showed you. And we have an AI health coach that will come in next that says, oh, by the way, eat this or don't eat that, do this or don't that. So you have 4 different technologies. Well, I guess language model done twice. 3 different technologies implemented in a multitude of ways that is going to change your daily life. And the hack, I think the biggest hack still is intermittent fasting. I think the biggest hack is eat all your meals within 8 hours. Don't eat more. Your stomach will shrink a little bit, but eat within 8 hours, fast for 16 hours. It's the simplest hack, doesn't cost money, doesn't have to buy organic, takes no time to prepare.
All right.
I think for me, GLP-1s are the biggest trend that I see over the next, 5 or 10 years. And I hesitate to give other people advice about what they should do. But, for me, I put out a piece, yesterday about how my weight has yo-yoed for years, depending on what I'm doing at work, what's going on at home. And I've really struggled to contain it, not because of a lack of effort or access to tools or coaches or what have you. It's just willpower. And so for me, I lost 40 pounds in 5 or 6 months, end of last year, on GLP-1s. I used Ozempic, but there are others as well. But the most important thing for me was like my relationship with food permanently changed. I didn't have these cravings anymore. Stress wasn't inducing me to eat junk food. And I really felt like I needed that boost. So having gone through that experience, I'm a believer at least that the people that go through that system at the very least will have a slightly different relationship with what they eat and how they eat. And that's been powerful for me.
Yeah, just kudos to Bharat. He wrote a very candid op-ed, a real raw, intimate look at his weight. There's even a chart, like as he became CEO and founder during, different difficult periods of fundraising, his weight would go up, et cetera. And it's been a real innovation, that he's been able to capitalize on with these GLP-1s. It's an ag funder, if you guys want to look at it. Thank you for that. It's a bit of intimate, story that most people don't want to tell, right? So I think that it was really brave of you to do that. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed this session. I hope you got a little bit of advice. And these guys are going to be around if you have any questions afterward. But thank you, everybody.